All right, YouTube, it's day 3 of the anti-Trump protests, and I wanted to comment on the protests going on in Portland. Now, I did attend the rally last night. I did attend when it was relatively peaceful, and after I left, it did turn into a riot. Now, what happened was some of the protesters decided to smash windows of cars, of windows, throwing garbage cans, throwing projectiles at the police, just real ugly. And the police did have to arrest some of the protesters. Now, I did want to make a comment on what I did observe at this rally. Now, what was particularly interesting is there were almost 2 protests going on at the same time. But it all started out in Pioneer Courthouse Square, where they then marched to the waterfront. And then at the waterfront, there was a vigil, and then the other protesters fissioned off and decided to march across the Hawthorne Bridge. Now, the vigil was kind of boring, to be honest. It was really an open mic where anyone could just go up there, shit on Donald Trump, say how he's going to round up all the gays and throw them in internment camps, and so on and so forth. So there was a rally that was peaceful last night. Let's be real. Now, the other rally did end up turning violent. Now, what was really interesting about this riot was it wasn't just about Donald Trump. And I know these riots are aimed at Donald Trump. You know, they want a different president. They'll say, not my president. But with some of these protesters, they have a whole agenda. They want more environmental policies. They want more corporate taxes. They have an agenda that they're trying to sell. And some of these protesters admit that they're not going to change Donald Trump. They're not going to change the fact that Donald Trump is president. They just want to demand more progressive issues within Portland. And I thought this was really ironic because a lot of these protesters are under 30, and they brought their Starbucks to the rally. I mean, they're railing against capitalism, and they're streaming the protest on their iPhone 7 wearing their Nike shoes. I mean, it's a total hypocrisy, which I thought was really interesting that they didn't want to make this really all about Donald Trump. They wanted to put other issues, they wanted to bring other issues forward. Now, I did want to make a comment on some of these rioters that were violent. Now, one of the leading protesters of PDX Don't Shoot, Gregory McKelvey, who organizes a lot of these groups to do these rallies, is distancing himself from the people who committed the violence last night. Now, McKelvey did put out a statement with his group, Portland Resistance, I believe is the name. I'll put a link down in the description. And he more or less condemned the violence of these anarchists. But it doesn't make too much sense once you read some of these comments here. So during the press release, or at least the press release he posted on his Facebook, it says, "While our group does not support or condone violence or vandalism of any form, we must consider the reasons for such destruction, the conditions that led people feeling that destruction is their only voice. Martin Luther King once said that a riot is the language of the unheard. Those who engaged in destructive actions feel unheard, and it's vastly important to us to name why and, moreover, how their voices may be heard constructively." Now, that doesn't seem like he condemns the violent forms of protest, the riot. It seems like these groups would rather ask for forgiveness later, which I think is why they formed a GoFundMe to pay for all of the destruction and vandalism that occurred. So I don't know if the rally is going to be violent tonight. It could escalate. Who knows? It could be worse. They don't have the proper paperwork, mind you, in Portland to do this kind of rally. So we'll see what happens tonight. Gebby, signing out.